It was just after midnight when I hailed the cab. I had spent the evening at a friend's house, and after a couple of drinks, I decided to call it a night. My phone battery was down to 3%, so I waved down an old-fashioned yellow cab instead of relying on a rideshare app. It felt nostalgic, almost comforting, as if getting into a real cab was safer somehow. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. The driver was an older man with graying hair poking out from under a worn cap. His face was mostly hidden in the shadows of the car, but I caught a glimpse of his wrinkled hands gripping the wheel. He didn't speak when I gave him my address, just gave a slow, deliberate nod and started driving. The ride was smooth, the kind of late-night trip that makes you sink into your seat and let your mind wander. The sound of the tires rolling over the wet streets was almost hypnotic. I leaned my head against the window and watched the city lights smear into colorful streaks. Everything seemed fine at first. It was quiet, peaceful, too peaceful. After a few minutes, I realized something strange. We weren't taking the normal route. "Hey," I said, sitting up a little, "isn't the highway faster?" The driver didn't answer, not even a glance in the rearview mirror. I felt my stomach drop. Maybe he didn't hear me? I tried again. "I think you missed the turn." This time, the driver tilted his head slightly, but he didn't say anything. Instead, he made a slow, deliberate left turn down a dimly lit street I'd never seen before. I knew my neighborhood like the back of my hand, and this wasn't part of it. Anxiety started to bubble up in my chest. "Where are we going?" I asked, my voice sharper now. Still, no answer. I pulled out my phone to call someone, anyone, but the screen was dead. The battery had finally given out. Great. Now it was just me, this silent driver, and a growing sense of unease that wrapped around me like a heavy blanket. The streets outside the window became narrower, the buildings older and more rundown. I saw the flicker of neon signs, half-burned-out letters spelling things I couldn't make out. The only sound inside the cab was the rhythmic swish of the windshield wipers, brushing away a light drizzle that had started without me noticing. I glanced into the rearview mirror again, hoping to catch the driver's eye. But all I saw was my own reflection, pale and wide-eyed. The man's eyes weren't even visible anymore, hidden beneath the brim of his hat. And then something strange happened. The clock on the dashboard blinked 12:05, then 12:05 again. It didn't move. I stared at it for a solid minute. Nothing. The second hand on the analog dashboard clock wasn't ticking either. It was as if time had stopped. A cold sweat broke out on the back of my neck. I shifted in my seat, the leather creaking beneath me. "Hey, where the hell are we going?" I demanded, louder this time, trying to mask the fear creeping into my voice. The driver finally spoke. "Almost there." His voice was low, gravelly, and completely devoid of emotion. It sent a shiver down my spine. "Almost where?" I asked, panic setting in. He didn't answer. Instead, he turned the wheel sharply, and the cab swerved onto a narrow road surrounded by dense trees. The streetlights disappeared, replaced by shadows that swallowed the car whole. The headlights barely cut through the darkness, and the only thing visible was the winding road ahead. I tried the door handle. Locked. Both sides. I slammed my fist against the window, but it barely made a sound. The cab felt like a coffin, the air growing thicker with every passing second. Suddenly, the driver chuckled, low and raspy, like it was coming from deep in his throat. "Don't bother," he said, his eyes flicking up to meet mine in the rearview mirror for the first time. His eyes were wrong. They were too wide, too dark, and there was something hollow about them, like looking into the eyes of a corpse. I kicked the back of his seat, shouting, "Let me out!" But the cab only sped up, the trees outside blurring into an impenetrable wall of black. And then, without warning, we skidded to a stop. The tires screeched on the wet pavement, and the car jerked violently. I was thrown against the door, gasping for air as I tried to steady myself. When I looked outside, I saw nothing, just endless darkness, as if the world beyond the car had been erased. "End of the line," the driver said softly, almost as if he were talking to himself. The doors unlocked with a quiet click. I hesitated. My gut told me to stay inside, but my instincts screamed otherwise. With trembling hands, I pushed the door open and stepped out into the void. The air outside was cold, bone-chillingly cold. I wrapped my arms around myself and took a few cautious steps forward, my shoes crunching against gravel I couldn't see. When I turned around to ask the driver what the hell was going on, the cab was gone. I stood there, stunned, my breath forming clouds in the freezing air. The road was gone. The trees were gone. I was standing in a vast empty field, surrounded by mist that clung to my skin like cobwebs. There was no sign of the cab, no sign of civilization, just me and the endless night. And then I saw it. Out of the mist emerged a figure, tall and thin, wearing what looked like an old-fashioned uniform. His face was obscured by shadows, but I could feel his gaze locked onto me, heavy and cold. I backed away, my heart hammering in my chest, but my legs felt like lead. I couldn't move fast enough. "Who are you?" I whispered, though I already knew I wouldn't get an answer. The figure stepped closer, and with each step, the air grew colder, the mist thicker. I could see his features now, gaunt cheeks, sunken eyes, and a mouth that curled into a cruel, knowing smile. I turned and ran, but no matter how fast I moved, the mist followed, wrapping around me, pulling me back. My lungs burned with every breath, and my legs ached with every step, but I couldn't stop. Finally, I stumbled and fell, landing hard on the ground. I gasped for air, my hands clawing at the gravel beneath me. When I looked up, the figure was gone. The mist was gone. I was lying in the middle of a street I didn't recognize, under a flickering street lamp that buzzed faintly above me. The sound of a car engine made me sit up, and I saw a cab, a yellow cab, just like the one I'd been in, pulling up to the curb. The driver leaned out, his face hidden beneath a familiar cap. "Need a ride?" he asked, his voice smooth and calm, as if nothing had happened. I shook my head, scrambling to my feet. No, I'm good." The driver shrugged and pulled away, the cab disappearing into the night. I stood there for a long moment, trying to make sense of what had just happened. My phone buzzed in my pocket, and when I pulled it out, the screen showed 12:05, just like the dashboard clock. The road around me was quiet, empty, as if the night had swallowed everything that came before it. I started walking, hoping to find my way home, hoping that what I had just experienced was nothing more than a nightmare. But deep down, I knew the truth. Some rides take you places you were never meant to go.